Hello, this is my final draft proposal for my lesson plan for instructional design, and it is basically a historical exercise. So I'm going to run down some of the things that we do here. And one of my intentions here was to provide history students with numerous resources to find primary source material for their research. So primary sources are important for history students because they offer the foundation to break new ground in research, and they often provide a lot of evidence for the papers and stuff that we use. So this would be really good to do with a history class or a history program and set them up so that the library can teach these students how to find this information when they need it. Student objectives for this lesson that I'm doing is, number one, students will be able to research primary source documents for their historical research, and number two, navigate historical databases for information related to their topics. Teacher and student participation breaks down such as this. Teacher gives a brief introduction into searching for primary sources through the California Newspaper Archive. Students then use the knowledge of how to navigate the digital archive to find a newspaper closest to their hometown and find an article on the front page 100 years prior to their birth. The teacher will then give a brief example using their own newspaper by finding a peer-reviewed article on one of the subjects of their birthday newspaper. So what they'll then do is then take a subject from that newspaper and find a peer-reviewed article that may or may not have that subject matter on it from 100 years ago. Now, typically I'll be looking them to look at front page history articles, because there is where they're going to find probably the most connection to actual history books and primary sources they might be able to find with it. Students will then take the subject of what they're reviewing from their personal front page and find a historical peer-reviewed article on that topic from the library's search engine. The students will then write a 2-paragraph description of the topic and how the article gave depth to their topic. Students will end, the class will end with students sharing their articles and explanation of the topics as partly another formative but also a summative assessment, so that they can demonstrate that they have achieved this skill, and moreover they have an understanding of how to connect the information to a peer-reviewed article. There are two ways I feel like this lesson can be executed. One is in person, an instructional session with students. The other is to do an online module in Canvas, which I have done before. I am choosing the in-person class to develop for the final lesson plan here. Needed would be a computer room with projectors so students can follow the mini lecture and instructions for completion of the assignment. One new addition would be to have students look up a historical peer-reviewed article on historical information they are viewing. This would allow them experience in finding out how to use a secondary source database and primary source databases at the same time. Not sure if one should be the follow-up lesson and do like one and then the other, but I believe that their connection could help a class over time. Assessment. Students will upload front page PDF to the lesson page. Students will upload an article to the lesson page. Students will be evaluated and assessed on the 2 paragraphs based on the historical analysis and ability to draw connections between their primary and secondary source. If the student completes this task, they are considered successful. Follow-through activity, I would utilize a survey after their first project to assess whether students were helped by the instruction or not. This can be done through an app so that they could access it on their phones. Asking to make it part of the course on the main instruction would help get students to participate and help with the fine-tuning and the lesson for future students. The content is similar to the 7-step model. I would argue it is organized in a slightly different way. I do enjoy the AIDDE model because it allows different breakdowns of your lesson plan in different ways. So either of those two systems work for the final, but I do feel like a quiz could be used as a formative assessment on the way up. Maybe not so much the quiz as in retrieving the documents, and the summative assessment being the 2 paragraphs. So I think overall this will work, so we'll see.